Hi students, my name is Surya Thapa, Assistant Professor in the Department of Political Science, Postgraduate Government College, Sector 11, Chandigarh. Today I am going to discuss about constitutionalism in advanced country. Hope you would like it. In simple, every liberal democratic political system is based upon the philosophy of constitutionalism. In simple word, constitutionalism is a set of political ideas that desire to protect people's freedom through establishment of check and balances on the government. Difference between constitution and constitutionalism. A constitution is a body of idea, a system of fundamental principles that not only describes and prescribes the nature or function of the government but also enumerates the limit of a government. A constitution is an arrangement that decides as to how the society is to be governed by structures, political, legally and socially. The nature of democracy is directly affected by the constitution of a land. A constitution is a group of those principles according to which the relationship between government and the government are adjusted. It also decides the power of the government. On the other hand, constitutionalism is a group of those ideas that restrict the government in using its power. A constitution is desirable as one essential trait for constitutionalism. Montesquieu has given the democratic world the idea of separation of power and check and balances between the legislative, executive and judiciary, the three organs of the government. In a democracy, there is a separation of power between the legislative, executive and the judiciary. They work independently, yet also work interdependently with each other. They keep a check on each other, thus curbing any tendency of any kind of arbitrary rule. Another basic tenet of constitutionalism is the rule of law. It is the law which should be supreme in a country. A limited government is another essential ingredient in constitutionalism. The government has power and a limit on these power is constitutionalism. When we practice constitutionalism, it means that the government as well as the people it represents have voluntarily moved away from arbitrary government. Only when we have this provision can citizens of a country enjoy the various liberty and freedoms. Only then would equality and justice prevail. The government is supposed to promote and protect certain liberties of people. The government has power to help people enjoy their liberty. This supreme power of the government needs to be limited. Constitutionalism is basically the antithesis of authoritarianism. The main purpose of drafting a constitution is to limit or restrict the power of government and its three organs. History of constitutionalism. Two renowned scholars, Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, propagated the theory of an unlimited sovereign. They felt that no control, no limits were applicable on the sovereign who framed laws, but were not applicable to the sovereign himself. On the other hand, we have John Austin, an English legal theorist, who believed that law is command of a sovereign and that no one except the sovereign could command himself, herself or itself. We have the example of Magna Carta, which was signed in 1215 that restricted the power of the monarch. One of the earliest documents, the Magna Carta is arguably the best initiative to limit the government. Further, the Petition of Rights signed in 1628 between the king and the parliament is another strong guarantee for the rights of the subject against the arbitrary rule of monarch. It protected the civil rights of a common people. Further, the Bill of Rights in 1689 further cemented the dignity of people of United Kingdom. It guarantees right of the citizens and also the power of the parliament. The Bill of Rights of 1689 was just one of the inspiration of the United States to pass its Bill of Rights, giving freedom and rights to the American citizen. Passed in 1989 incorporating 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights in USA guarantees the citizen not only respect but also checks arbitrary rules. Elements of constitutionalism. Drafting a constitution and adopting it does not mean the constitutionalism is in vogue in that country. Constitutionalism can be felt when the government of that country observes the limitation and practices according to it. Constitutionalism means when the government has power but limits itself and does not act arbitrarily. Government power must be restricted so that government does not destroy the very values it is supposed to promote. A government which wants to act as a despot will not stop just because there is restriction within the constitution. Democracy always encourages representative government where sovereignty rests with the people. The representative elected by the rulers have to exercise authority on behalf of the people. The people will master. It is genuine that it has to be accepted. Only then can democracy true in spirit be established. A despotic or an authoritarian regime cannot do justice to democratic norm, for they have no respect for the mandate of the people. Democracy and constitutionalism are closely connected. The practice of one leads to the survival of the others. Constitutionalism would be considered the supreme document of the land only when rule of law is established. It advocates supremacy of law and a political system governed by law, rules and regulation. The author Frederick says constitutionalism, by dividing power, provides a system of effective restraints upon governmental action. In studying it, one has to explore the method and techniques by which such restraint and established and maintained. It is a body of rule ensuring fair play, thus rendering the government responsible. Development of constitutionalism in United Kingdom. United Kingdom boasts of an unwritten constitution, yet because of the various conventions that are rightly respected by the people, because the convention have stood the test of centuries, political scientists feel that United Kingdom have a vibrant constitution. Though the constitution is uncodified, yet the spirit of constitutionalism is followed in practice. Democracy in the United Kingdom is a result of centuries of struggle against despotism and tyranny. The struggle for rights and dignity of its citizens spanned centuries. Along with the struggle between the parliament and the king, the floating of new ideas by great political scientists themselves give a new impetus to the idea of constitutionalism. The habeas corpus 1679, which was passed during the reign of Charles II, preventing arbitrary imprisonment for any citizen, and further gave the courts the power to examine the reason and lawfulness behind a person's detention. The Representation of People Act 1918, also known as the Fourth Reform Act, was a step to include all the men over age 21 and all women above the age 30 into the electorate system. The Representation of People Act 1928 gave all women over the age of 21 the right to vote. This act is also known as Fifth Reform Act or the Equal Suffrage Act. It was a conservative party that passed this act, which was surprising because prior to this, the Liberal Party had initiated reform in the 19th century. Constitutionalism is alive in the United Kingdom because it has suitable mechanism and counter the powers of the state, and credit goes to the government and it observes the sanctity of the limitation placed on it. Constitutionalism in United States. In the United States, which has the oldest written constitution, constitutionalism means that the government derives its authority from the people. Constitutionalism is also based on the principle that the government is limited by a body of fundamental law. The Constitution of the United States was the first to adopt Montesquieu theory of separation of power and check and balances. The power of judicial review of the Supreme Court of the United States is a great check on the President of the United States as well as the Congress. The power of the government are further limited by the federal constitution that gives nearly equal power to the states. The American Constitution and the constitutionalism defends the individual natural rights. In the history of United States, the Declaration of Independence of 1976, the framing of the Constitution in 1787, the ratification of Bill of Rights 1791 are momentous steps in the journey of the constitutionalism. The constitution makers were clear that the ultimate sovereign were the people. The government derives its sovereignty from the people. Though the day-to-day government affairs are carried on by a few elected representatives, yet the people remain the one with popular sovereignty. The government remains dependent on the people from whom they draw their powers, and it is the people who have the right to change the government or even amend the constitution. Separation of church and the state is another wise and the rational step to check exploitation of the people as well as to check arbitrary rule. Impartial rule, that is the rule of law, governs the relationship between individuals as well as between the individuals and the state. The beauty of rule of law lies in the fact that it is equally applicable to the rulers, elected representatives and all the public officials. The smaller states in the United States were determined not only to be dominated by the larger state, so the Constitution was framed according to the Virginia Plan, which is based on representation by population, and the New Jersey Plan that gave equal representation to all states. This is known as the Great Compromise. The result, while Senate gave equal representation to the all states irrespective of population, the House of Representatives is composed on the basis of population. The balance of power has changed hands with the passage of time. The states remain apprehensive on the center and its authority to step onto the sphere of the state. The restraint on the part of the center over itself in dealing with the states is a good example of constitutionalism in practice. On the other hand, there are various platforms where the states cooperate with center but by keeping their power intact. Democracy is defined through free and fair election, various liberties and rights. But democracy goes beyond all this. Democracy can be successful only when constitutionalism exists. The latter flourishes when rule of law is established, liberties are practiced, individual dignity is respected, and by evolving a system that will not violate the rights. The final goal is to restrain the authority of the government and to defend the individual rights and liberty. Even in the United States, the low voter turnout and the control of few families on the political system is a great setback to constitutionalism. The high cost of campaigning and participation discourages the common person to contest election. There has to be an honest deal between the elites and the various pressure interest groups to encourage maximum participation of the people. The monopoly of the elites has to be broken for constitutionalism to continue in the same spirit of envisioned by founding father of the United States Constitution. Moving a step further, after drafting a constitution, putting the various provisions in practice, the subsequently evolving new healthy practices are the hallmarks of American constitutionalism. In the nutshell, we can say that constitutionalism is a noble spirit behind any constitution or democracy. It is a principle through which government drives its authority, and it opposes any kind of arbitration by a person or a group of persons. Hope student you would like this paper, and for further details you can also see the paper. Thank you.